up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, welcome back, Enrichers. Carter Wilcoxon coming to you from sunny, warm Phoenix, Arizona. It's right around 108 degrees out here in the desert. It's a dry heat, though. I promise there's a huge difference. We are super excited about having our guests coming on today, coming in from the East Coast. But before we bring in Ben Offit of Offit Advisors, let me go ahead and bring in my esteemed co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James. Timmy, how are you, my man?
Hey, doing good, brother. Doing good. Just had a long weekend. We went up to Washington by Mount Adams to a mud festival. So a band went up there and we got to play a little bit. I didn't play in that band, but I took my guitar and walked around and ended up playing in the what do you call it? There's little food carts. There was a Mexican food cart there, and I met the owners and stuff, and I was in there playing music inside of the food cart, and then I did a couple campfires and just went around and met a bunch of people and connected, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm dragging a little bit from a lot of driving and staying up late. That thing went till like 2 a.m. or something like that. So
well, we're gonna call. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, thank God I have all my products and all the stuff, my little tricks and hacks to bring myself back. But I need one more night of good sleep, and I'll be back 100%. So I'm like 92% today.
Thank goodness for that. I did hit my sauna this morning and everything. We went out for an early morning walk. But in the summertime here in Phoenix, we have monsoons, right? And last night we got pounded from like 10 o'clock until like 4 o'clock in the morning. It literally, I got basically shot out of bed because our power went off and then came back on, and this like thunder boomer and everything. And it was crazy, but we went out for a walk this morning because it was nice, fresh rain and everything. So that was cool. And then of course I hit the sauna because myself this week, for you Enrichers who are listening that are golf fans at all, it was the Open Championship, which means that golf comes on at 3 o'clock in the morning. Started at 3 o'clock in the morning, and me and my better half Christina were up bright and early each day. Starting Friday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, watching the Open Championship. So I was lacking a little bit of sleep as well, my man. So anyway,
it happens.
Yeah. But as is normal, I always like to, impart a little bit of golf almost every episode. If we don't have that, I feel like we might go into withdrawals. But anyway, with all that being said, Enrichers, we are super excited to bring in our guest today from Maryland and from Offit Advisors, Ben Offit, CFP. Ben, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you going?
Doing fantastic. And I know it's late on the East Coast. Tim and I are out here on the West Coast. It's 3 hours later there and everything. So thank you very much for joining us late in the day, taking you away from your family and everything to be able to do this. And family is important. Obviously, we want to balance work life and everything, but we really are appreciative of having you come on and be our guest today on the Health and Wealth Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure. So, Ben, as is normal on the Health and Wealth Podcast, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and have the Enrichers, that's our audience that we call them, share with them, your story. You normally don't grow up thinking, oh, I'm going to be a financial advisor, right? Now, we've had guests that come on that they sort of were in the area for a long time because of their parents or whatever. But let's go back and share with our listenership on what was it that first brought you into this industry of, wanting to be in the financial advisory space and having a heart for helping people.
Yeah, for sure. You're exactly right. I fell into it. I never expected to be in this line of work ever. It just kind of happened. I know that's true for a lot of people, but that's what happened with me too. And it's really been a great fit. I was in college. I was entrepreneurship major, very interested in starting my own business of some sort. didn't know how that would manifest or come to light, but I knew that's what I wanted to do in some way, shape, or form. And then I also knew I wanted to help people. Was pretty serious about that. I felt like I needed to do something that had meaning and purpose. And if it didn't, I felt like I would, not be enjoying my days, I guess. So I was looking for that, a combination and intersection of entrepreneurship and, the ability to really make an impact. And have that be unlimited, I guess, in both directions. So I graduated from college in 2009, right after, right in the midst of, the
Great recession, right?
Right. So it was a pretty scary time to graduate. I really had no idea what I was going to do. I was looking for those two things, but I didn't know what was going to happen next. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, got a job in Baltimore, which is where I'm from. And when that happened, I felt like that was like a sign from God that I'm supposed to find a job in the area. And, she got a job in my hometown and, stay with her and figure it out. So I was in the business school, University of Maryland, and got a call like 9:30 in the morning. I was still sleeping, which is, crazy for me now, because now sleeping in for me is like 6:30. But it was, that was early for me at the time. And they were like, "Hey, we saw your resume on the business school database. Would you want to come in for an interview?" And it was Northwestern Mutual, big life insurance company, financial services company. And I was just like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And I just, hung up and went back to bed. But then I did some more research into it, and it looks like it could have some of those elements of, helping people, entrepreneurship, not having a limit on my income, earning capability, and my time. And, I went with it, went to the interview, learned more about it, and didn't really have many other opportunities. I liked what I heard. And so I started to go through the motions of it, and I went through with it. And I got to tell you, I mean, my family, was like, "We sent you to college for 4 years for you to come out of school in a commission-based job and sell life insurance." And it's just like, I guess, I mean, that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to work out well. And I was, pretty jazzed about it, and I just went for it. And I think that was like my first taste of just like, whatever rejection I'm going to face or whatever people think, I don't care. I'm just going to go for it and do what I'm going to do. And I went right into it and just, believed in it right away. I drank the Kool-Aid, and I just said, I'm going to do whatever they tell me to do to be successful. Because that's what they told me. They said, if you do what we tell you and follow our playbook, like a franchise, like a McDonald's, you'll make it. And I wanted to make it. I didn't want to fail. And I just did that to a T. I really worked my tail off to follow that playbook, and I did, and it worked. And I stuck around there for 6.5 years. It was a hard decision to leave, and then I left to go more into the independent side. But that's kind of the long-winded story.
Wow, no, that's awesome. So let's go back and get a little bit more personal. Your girlfriend at the time, wife now, congratulations.
Thank
you guys met, and you're both Terrapins. Did I hear that right? Or?
Both Terrapins, yep. And she's definitely the biggest accomplishment in my life, and I mean that sincerely. She's way out of my league in every way, and
you use a football term because I saw in your bio you're a Ravens fan, right?
Yeah, I'm a big Ravens fan.
Coverage on that deal.
What's that?
You outpunted your coverage on that deal.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did. Yeah, we lived on the same floor freshman year in college, the same dorm room. There was a guy's side and a girl's side, and I met her pretty much the first day of college, and I was like, "Who is that?" I was like, one day she'll be mine, and then it happened. So it was a dream come true for sure.
Oh, that is awesome. And then, so you guys been married for how long now? Then
it'll be 9 years in November.
Wow, fantastic. And then how many kids you guys have together?
Two boys, 2 young boys.
2 young boys. Well, obviously they got to be fairly young, right? I mean, you just So you met her in 2009. And
I graduated in 2009. I met her in 2005.
oh, yeah, that's right. So your freshman year, you meet her.
Mm-hmm.
So all through college, you're dating and everything.
No. Nope. Didn't really start dating till like late junior year, early senior year, but had a crush throughout.
But you were always working your angles, I'll bet, right?
Yeah. Just waiting for my opportunity.
Nice. So when you get this opportunity from Northwestern Mutual, then you guys are obviously you're married at the time, right?
No. Graduated college, still boyfriend, girlfriend. Didn't get married till I guess like 3 years later.
Oh.
So yeah. No. 4 years later. Yeah. Okay. Got engaged 3 years later.
So how much of an impact or influence did she have on you, or if there was any at all, as far as like going into the financial services business then?
Well, I couldn't say that she directed me to get into this line of work. I would say, her getting the job in Baltimore had an impact, because I probably would have figured out a way to follow her. If she had gone somewhere else, like if she had moved to New York or something, I probably would have figured out a way to go to New York as well, or do something, and that could have led me down a totally different path. But, we definitely took different paths. I mean, she took a big corporate finance job, out of college, and with, a good salary starting out, for someone out of college, and, a corporate track, which was definitely the more normal thing to do out of college, I would say, out of business school. What I did, was weird or rare. People were like, what are you doing? You're doing that? And yeah.
They're like, you could have done that right out of high school. Why you got to go to college for all that stuff?
Right. Yeah, exactly. But, for me, like, I had that entrepreneurial mindset, and I was like, well, this is entrepreneurial, even though it's more of a traditional, service offering. It's the opportunity for me to build and grow something and build a client base and kind of put my hard work into it and my effort. And, that appealed to me. Yeah,
that's awesome. So, so you talked a little bit about how it was, 6 years in with Northwestern Mutual. It was a tough decision to leave, but I would venture a guess, as a fellow entrepreneur, that your entrepreneurial spirit kept kicking in for you to really have your own business or practice. Is that fair?
Definitely. It was just something in the back of my mind, like an itch I couldn't scratch, and just something that was a recurring thought in my brain. I could be doing this differently or better, or doing this way, and I just felt constrained or confined somewhat. Northwestern was great. Ultimately, I built my foundation there and learned a lot, and made a lot of great relationships, built a lot of great clients. But yeah, it was just, the entrepreneurial opportunity to do things even more so, how I wanted to do them, or how I felt. And I just felt like I could be a better advisor, honestly, just, being independent, unbiased, not representing a manufacturer of products. I just felt like I could, really truly sit on the same side of the table as the client. And I felt like that was pushing me as well.
I don't think people understand how important that is. Like when you're choosing a financial advisor, why independent is good, because it's like, if you go to a baker, they bake. If you go to a surgeon, they cut. If you go to some place that sells a certain stock, bond, and mutual fund portfolio, that's probably what you're going to walk out of there with. And not to mention names, but there's one company that, like, they pretty much off their crappy mutual funds and to the clients, and it's like, and they incentivize their advisors to do that. And it's just people don't know. So like being independent, to first off, for those listening, if you're not an advisor and you're somebody that just, is listening because you might want to hire an advisor, or you are just, interested in the show or whatever. When you work with somebody independent, they had to take a big leap of faith to get out of where they were. They're what I consider a captive agent. So they have to sell whatever they're told to sell, and it's a very limited scope. So Mark, so what ended up happening is that Ben actually walked away from that security and that safety with probably lots of clients and all this stuff to go out on his own to try to do it right and to be able to help people more and to be able to give them like, wow, if they really need a hammer to hammer the nail in, and I don't have to use a screwdriver anymore.
Yeah.
And I can really help them increase their rates of return, protect their assets. It's a lot more work to go independent. People don't realize you have to really put your time and effort into it, and you have to run the whole show, everything from the whole gamut, and deal with securities, commission and all that. And it's a lot to be able to do what you're doing. So it's commendable.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I agree. It was scary for sure.
And again, as all three of us are entrepreneurs here and everything, what I'm wanting to know, and where I was going with that also is now you are married. Now you are going to go independent. Now, what types of conversations are you having with your wife about leaving Northwestern Mutual in this comfort zone that you were in a little bit? Because no one likes change, but as an entrepreneur, that's what we're constantly thinking about, right? We're always thinking about how do you make the mousetrap better, so to speak, right? How do you do it better? And you're always trying to do it better. So you are compelled really and driven from that spirit that you have. I'm just curious, how were those types of conversations that you had with your wife about leaving Northwestern Mutual and now going independent?
Yeah. She's definitely much more risk averse than I am. So, it's not a decision she would probably make, but she probably also would have been in the job that I was in the first place. But I think at the end of the day, she believed in me and felt like, she trusted that I was doing what I felt was right for the future. And I think she knew if I did it, I would make it. And I think that's right. That's true.
Yeah. So, and I can tell you that my wife, I way out punted my coverage too. Right. I tell people all the time, if you want to know how good of a salesperson I am, quote unquote, just meet my wife. Right. Because there's no way that someone this beautiful and smart should be married to this guy. But
right.
But that support that you get at home, I mean, it's critically important for your success.
No doubt. I'm thankful for that. Definitely, if you've got a good home life, it's easier to be grounded and have that, faith in yourself and that confidence that you've got that security in other ways. And, also from a parental perspective, I mean, I'm lucky. I had great parents growing up, definitely, loving and supportive environment. And I think that, helped instill confidence in me at a young age that, I'd be okay. I think that's important. So I'm lucky for the path that I've had.
Wow.
Except when you wanted to sell insurance after 4 years of college.
Yeah, that's true. But I think that
hey, what are you doing over there?
I think that gave me a little bit of a little bit of extra motivation. I think, which was actually good.
Prove everybody that you could do it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes. But you're right.
Hey, it all helps. You got the wife at home. You got to take care of that. Kids are coming, all this stuff, and little parental push, and and striving to do it yourself and just be a success. So that's awesome. So
yeah.
All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we get back, we're gonna get into what Ben's doing over there to help people protect and grow their money. We'll be right back.
Estate planning. What does that even mean? When the inevitable happens for everyone on this planet, your estate plan kicks into action. But first, let's start with what an estate is. An estate is simply everything you own. Now, here's the issue and what needs to be understood when this event occurs. You only have two choices on this plan. Number one, either you plan how your estate gets handed out and distributed to those you leave behind. Or number two, your state decides who gets everything you own. For the first time ever, you can now take complete and total control of this plan that you've been deprived of for most of your life and generations before you. You can get personalized assistance along the way with a team of specialists whose job it is to make sure you have true peace of mind. It's important to understand that estate planning is a journey, and rest assured that our team will be available to you all along the way and at every step. Welcome to eState Plan, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. To learn more, make sure to reach out to your local advisor licensed with us or go to our website for more information.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house, we have Ben Offit, certified financial planner from the East Coast. And, hey, Ben, what was really cool? I mean, before we get into all the cool stuff you're doing, I noticed that you must have a insider at the Baltimore Magazine, or you're really good at what you do, because he was named 5-star wealth manager by Baltimore Magazine in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022 as a top wealth manager and he's also named a top wealth manager under 40 by Fortune Magazine. So pretty cool. You've been hustling over there, haven't you, buddy?
Always hustling.
So what are you doing to help your clients? And the byproduct of that is, you get these little awards and these glass trophies. And I mean, it's kind of fun and stuff. But for me, like, I could care less about the trophies. I just really wanted to grow my practice and help people. So what are you doing over there that you think separates yourself?
Yeah, I mean, really just that. I mean, I've always focused on helping people. I mean, like I said in the beginning of the show, that, that was a huge component of entering this line of work for me, was the opportunity to really make a difference in people's lives. And that's what motivates me each day and focuses me each day, and before each meeting, I just try to think of, well, how can I truly help this person and make a difference in their life today, this moment. And I think by doing that, I'm kind of like an introverted person, and I don't think I'm very salesy in the traditional sense, but I think that I get passionate and, focused and, sincere and good at what I do, because of that desire to truly, help them. And I think it's not about what I'm making or, the opportunity for me. It's about, well, how can I make as much of an impact on this person? And, by doing that, that's when you get good results, I think, because it's sincere, genuine belief in what I'm recommending or prescribing for the client, I guess.
Well, let me just I want to jump in, because you were talking about all those awards that obviously Ben won, but as I'm looking at your resume, the thing that stands out to me is you're not a generalist. You are a specialist. Like you understand the P&C side of the equation, right? You understand, you've got your real estate license, you're a CFP. I mean, you can manage money, insurance. I mean, it runs the whole gamut of the things that you can provide for your clients. And I got to say, I don't know if I've ever, and this is 20 years working as an advisor to advisors, I don't know if I've seen any advisor who had their real estate license, their P&C license, their life insurance license, their securities license. It's pretty impressive, Ben. There's no doubt about it. And if you are out there shopping for someone to even know how to do all of those different things, that tells me that you are trying to be the one-stop shop, so to speak, for your clientele. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but is that some of the idea?
Or we need to get this guy a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that one-stop shop concept that, we've used that term, and, that is something that's crossed my mind a lot. I think for me, I talked about leaving Northwestern Mutual. Also, a big part of that, beyond the entrepreneurship thing and being a better advisor. Actually, well, hand in hand with being a better advisor, is I got my CFP, designation when I was at Northwestern Mutual, and that also lit up a bunch of light bulbs in my brain. And when we were studying for that, it was about so many different subject matters that didn't pertain to selling insurance. That's not the only thing you do at Northwestern. That's obviously a big focus of it. But, things about like reverse mortgages or cash flow or estate planning or auto insurance or, so many different subjects. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, why am I not focusing on all this stuff as much as I'm focusing on the insurance aspect? A real advisor really needs to be able to help clients with all these things. And so that was the first thing. And then I started thinking, well, there's got to be more than the environment that I'm in to be able to do more of this stuff and be more in depth with clients. then once I went to the independent channel, I couldn't get my PNC license at Northwestern. It wasn't allowed. And I said, well, why not? Why can't I get it now? And I got it, and my real estate license, and, just started going down all these different roads, and it made me more knowledgeable in all these different ways as well. And then we actually started, to do more services in-house. Like we, got into tax filing and bookkeeping and accounting and property and casualty insurance. And we really were starting to form this one-stop shop. And, we were successful in doing that, but we actually just changed course, this year, because even though we've been building up those different aspects to our business, I think kind of realized that while it's good to be able to serve clients in those regards, that our core business is financial planning and investment advisory and insurance. And we kind of were, veering away a little bit from our main focus. And we thought we could be, just better at going back to our roots, so to speak. So it's just been kind of an evolution. We'll see what the future holds. I mean, we get bigger as a firm over time, potentially we'll get back into it, but right now we're just focused on our core model.
Okay, no, that's awesome. So, so I'm curious, was it, and maybe I missed this part of it in the first segment. And Richards, again, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. We're on here with Ben Offit of Offit Advisors, CFP, and the jack of all trades, it looks like over there. But did you go straight from Northwestern Mutual to starting Offit, or was there something in between and then you started Offit Advisors?
Good question. There was something in between in a way. So I was, honestly a star at Northwestern Mutual. I was one of the top, younger advisors in the country, but again, most of that was, on the insurance angle side of things, because that's, the bread and butter at Northwestern. So when I went to leave Northwestern, I didn't want to go straight to an RIA channel. I'm in an independent broker dealer / hybrid RIA setup now, because a lot of my accounts were commission based from Northwestern, but none of the independent broker dealers really wanted me because they didn't really care about my insurance production. They cared about my investment production, which was decent, but not high enough to go out on my own. So what happened was I joined forces with another advisor where we formed a new brand. He was an older advisor, had a bigger book of business than I did. And I basically was under his branch, I guess technically you could say, but we had, the same brand, totally separate profit and loss statements, totally separate expenses, totally separate clients. It's just like we were together. And that's what allowed me to get into the independent space that I'm in now. So that firm was called Clear Path Advisory. We formed that together. And then after 2 years together, I realized that we weren't on the same, trajectory, I guess you could say, and what we wanted out of the business. And that's when I decided to, just separate and make it Offit Advisors, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And no, it makes perfect sense. I just had a suspicion that it wasn't straight from Northwestern to Offit. It felt like there was something, in between. And that was your, again, I would venture a guess that you're like, you weren't philosophically exactly aligned, and you're like, I can do it better, right? So you went from Northwestern Mutual, and you're like, that was great foundation to learn all these things. Then you get your CFP, and you're like, wait a second, there's so many more better things we can do. And then you're like, hey, I met this guy, let's do something. And then you're there for 2 years, and you're like, no, I just have to take the bull by the horns and do it myself. Is that? Yeah,
that's exactly right. But, again, the other gentleman I'm still close to, I learned a lot from him as well. He helped me, change into the independent space, which was a huge change. And so, he also came from the insurance world prior, so he kind of knew what that leap was about. So we definitely had some commonalities there, and he was helpful to me. And, I learned a lot, but at the same time, still like at Northwestern, people ask me, well, how long has your practice been around? And, I really look at it like it's been around since day one, 13 years now. It's just been in different locations, right? It's like, it's always been my practice. It's always been my clients, my expenses. Like, it's always been, reliant upon what I'm doing each day. It's just had different houses or places where it's lived.
Little different branding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
driving a different vehicle. That's it.
Right.
you were the centerpiece.
Yeah, exactly. So like my clients along the way are like, okay, that's fine. Makes it, as long as you're still there, it, doesn't matter if it's Northwestern or ClearPath or whatever. So it's just been one evolution after the next, and I'm sure there's gonna be many more in the future. It's just embracing change and embracing new opportunities and just getting better along the ways, each step as you can.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your clientele. I see obviously on your bio, young professionals, entrepreneurs, retirees, and things like that. So what does your clientele from end to end, right? Like demographic wise, are they from late 20s, early 30s, all the way up to 80s? What does your makeup look like? And a secondary question is, what do you think it is that your clientele like about working with Offit Advisors?
Yeah, the clientele is pretty diverse in all different ways, ages, backgrounds, religions, socioeconomic statuses, occupations. We like that. It's all different kinds of people. I feel like we're well versed in serving, like the young professional all the way to, the post retiree. And what was your second question?
I was just wondering about, well, actually, let me tie that question back to a different way to ask it. You started Offit Advisors, you're yourself, but when you look on your website, it looks like you've got a pretty substantial team that's this whole organization. So are they working mainly with Ben Offit, or are they working with some of your different advisors? How does the makeup, and what do your clients like about working with Offit?
Yeah, so the makeup has continued to change. We've added more team members and advisors and staff, and it's certainly grown over time. I mean, for a long time, it really, was just me and, an admin, right? Or an operations person, and then maybe another admin doing something else. But now we really have a team. We take a team approach. So the concept is now that when a client comes in, whether they're working with me or whether they're working with another advisor on our team, that they're getting a common, same financial planning experience and process and philosophy, regardless of who's working with them. And, I do still work with clients, but we also have other advisors on the team, who work with clients too. And I think what they like about it is, we're very honest, transparent, truthful, know our stuff, great service. We're great connectors for business owners. We have a lot of business owner clients. We have a good network of people. So we're always just trying to impact the business owner in other ways beyond just our services, but by introducing them to other resources or potential clients for them or referral partners for them. I think we just put the puzzle pieces together and just try to give them confidence, peace of mind, clarity, just like our tagline says. And I think we know what we're doing, and people get good value.
Perfect. So are you guys all in like one office location? Because, again, looking on your website, it looks like there's a pretty substantial sized team. And then, so I'm assuming there's one office location.
So we have one main office location, which is where I'm at right now. But then we have other like satellite offices where, we might, have client meetings if it's more geographically convenient, or, we might have someone work out of there for the day. But we do have one main hub in central Maryland between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore.
Oh, okay, cool. So over the last 2.5 years, obviously there's been something that's changed this entire plan. And I don't know if you've heard about this or not. But how have things been going as far as client like meetings? whether they're live or whether they're virtual? Has there been a substantial change one way or the other?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say before the pandemic, we were probably 75% in person, 25% virtual, and that was probably high at the time.
Yeah.
And then, during the pandemic, we went 100% virtual, as most people did. And, a lot of financial advisors, including us, really grew during that period. It allowed us to have a lot more meetings without drive time and, shorter meetings. And, it worked out well ultimately for our industry, I think, overall, in our business. And we're thankful for that, because there's a lot of businesses that really were suffering. So we're, thankful that we were able to grow during that period. But now I would say it's, probably closer to 50-50 again, 50% in person, 50% virtual.
Nice. Awesome. And then is Offit Advisors, are you guys on a regular basis looking to bring on new junior advisors for you to train and coach and mentor and things like that? Or is that sort of it just organically kind of happens?
I think it's both. I mean, we want to keep growing as an organization, because I think that creates more opportunities for our team and other people that haven't joined our team yet. And we want to help, create more opportunities, and also gives us more capability to serve more people. And that's really our underlying mission is, like I said in the beginning, I about impact. So, if it's just one solo person, you certainly can have impact, but you can only physically help so many people without overload. You can only help, let's say, 150, 200 clients or families. But if you build a team, you build systems and processes and, a team, you can multiply that tenfold, and, you have that much more impact. So that's really what we do.
That's awesome. Well, that leaves me with my last question. I know we're coming up on the next commercial break and everything, and we're going to get into the health side of the Health and Wealth podcast. But what is how many households are you guys serving approximately right now then?
I would say real households that are, ongoing, regular, in touch clients, like that say, Offit Advisors is our team, our resource for anything. I'd say it's 300, but then, there's a lot of clients that are, I guess, more or less transactional that we've touched in some way. Maybe it was an insurance policy here or there, or investment account there, but they're not full blown, regular planning clients all the time. So that with, that many people, it's probably near, I don't know, 700-800, something like that.
Wow. Okay. So cumulatively then, between, and what you just got to saying, I kind of sort of call them customers and then clients, right? Like, a client does everything with you every chance they get, and they talk about you, and or maybe they're even advocates, right? And then of course the customer, right? So in total, you're saying that you have somewhere around 800 to 1,000 then combined between customers and clients.
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah.
Well, because I know that obviously P&C, real estate. I mean, there's got to be so many different types of touch points with whether it's a customer or a client. That's impressive, by the way. I can honestly say that in my 20 years, you're one of, I can't even think of someone else that has their real estate or P&C or life and health or securities.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, I still believe this, that a client, wants to go to one place, one source, one team, and that team can, serve them and in all facets. So now we're still doing tax planning and, P&C. It's just we have partners to do it as opposed to us doing it in-house. So we work with those partners very closely with our clients, but I still think that's what clients really want. They want integration, they want communication, they don't want 5 different, advisors doing 5 different things that aren't working together. That's not one plan. It's really about one plan, and all these products and services, really cross over at the end of the day.
Yeah. So it's what we call the multidisciplinary team approach.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what our business model is here and how we help advisors. I think offline, I think there might be some things that I can share with you that could potentially enhance some of the things that you're doing. But I got to tell you, I love philosophically everything I've heard, and I can tell you that if you are shopping providers when it comes to having a one-stop shop, they definitely needed to reach out to you. And I know that we'll make sure in the show notes we'll have your website and how people can be able to get in contact with you and or your team and everything, so that they can find out how they could potentially become one of your clients or customers. So
Cool.
Anyway, Tim James, that's pretty
great segment, guys. It was good insight. So what we'll do, we'll take a quick break. And when we get back, we'll let Ben ask me any question he wants about health. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house, we've got Ben Offit, certified financial planner. Ben, this is the segment of the Health and Wealth podcast where we flip the script and you get to ask me any question about health. So what's your question, sir? Or questions?
Yeah. Are you familiar with the TB12 method?
The TB12 method. I am not. Tell me about it.
Is that the Tom Brady
Yes.
method?
I'm looking it up right now.
So, it's basically the Tom Brady method that he, produced a book about, crediting his longevity in NFL and his success in the NFL too. And it involves, adding pliability as a huge part of fitness, which is not just cardio or weightlifting, but it's like elongating and stretching your muscles, via exercises, and not using weights as much as using bands. And then, he's like 80% plant-based, I would say, 20%, animal protein. And then, I don't know, just different. He's got some interesting thoughts. I'm just, curious if you had a thought about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so funny because we're actually going to put together a program, just have a cookie cutter program, because that's what everybody seems to be selling out there. But I'm actually a yin yoga instructor. So what yin yoga is, it's 3 to 10 minute stretching postures. Because what I learned was actually way back in the day, I was going to Hawaii and for a honeymoon with my wife at the time. And I was reading this article from Sports Illustrated. There was this big, huge NFL football player doing yoga with these ladies, which kind of looked funny, especially back then. I still had my redneck man-made ego going. And I was like, reading it, but the NFL football players, if they could get an extra year or two, it could be millions of dollars for them. So they were getting their butts in there because it wasn't like their muscles weren't strong, but it was their ligaments and tendons were causing injuries. So when a baby's born, you can see, they can move their legs all around and they're just all flexible. And then as we age, we stop moving because we're not out in nature like we should be as much. And we get these stupid, desk jobs, and we're not, we get sedentary and we just don't move around. So the fascia, which is actually the largest organ in the body, not the skin, skin's number 2, the fascia, it's this interconnective tissue, and it's kind of like taffy and it gets really hard. But if you give it a gentle pull, after about 90 seconds of gently pulling it, it starts to open up. right? And then you're actually lengthening and strengthening that fascia, ligaments, and tendons. So after the 90-second mark is when the benefits actually begin. So the first 90 seconds is just warming up the fascia. Then after that, at least 90 seconds, and go as long as you want, up to 10 minutes or so, you can actually really elongate those muscles. And you start going and turning the tide and going back to where you were as a baby. And you actually become way more injury proof, right?
Yeah. And that's his whole philosophy. I think he tore his ACL like in the early 2000s, and he didn't want that to happen again. And so he started figuring, like, how can I get tackled or, roughed up without as much likelihood of getting hurt?
Yeah.
So he could stay on
About
the field.
2.5 years ago, I actually interviewed Dr. John Jaquish, who has a band system, and he claimed that it would triple muscle growth without injury and soreness. And so I looked into it, and there were some Harvard studies where they actually took the weight stacks and the universal machines with the dips and the pull-ups and all that stuff. And on one machine, they wrapped these elastic bands or around the weights themselves. And the other ones they didn't. And the Harvard study showed the people that had the bands wrapped around the weights as well tripled the muscle growth. Well, what they found out is that, like, when you like, or you're running or pushing or doing whatever, it's that last 5 to 7% of movement is where most of your power comes from and your strength. So when you have an elastic band and you're down here, let's say doing bench press, there's like hardly any resistance at all. Whereas if you had 200 pounds of, on a bar with some weight stacked on there, it would be like exposing your rotator cuff. This is where a lot of injuries come in. Guys get chest tears and stuff like that. And then you got to push it up. It's 200 pounds all the way through. Whereas the band, it starts out with 0 and it's incrementally goes up. But that last 5 to 7%, you could be at 250, 300 pounds. And then it goes back down to nothing. So what ends up happening is that with this growth curve, and what Dr. Jaquish found out was, like, you do one set, but at least 15 reps, but to failure. So you have to go to failure, complete muscle exhaustion, but one set. That's it. You don't do a second or third. And you're going to get maximum growth with your muscle, and you won't get the soreness because it's the second and third sets that you're depleting essential nutrients out of the muscles, like glycogen as an example, right? So that's where the soreness comes in. So what I found out was, like, okay, I'll try this. And I really wasn't paying attention 100%. And I was doing it like literally 8 minutes a day. I didn't even go to complete exhaustion. I was just doing the 15 rep thing, but it was kind of hard, And in like 3-4 months, I put on 11 pounds of muscle. And I was like working out like 8 minutes a day, 6 days a week, and no injuries, no soreness. So it gave me more time to do the stretching, right? Because I was really into yoga. And especially if you drive to a yoga studio and drive back and you do an hour to an hour and a half, that's a big time commitment. But it's a huge investment in your longevity and your health because you're staying like a young kid. You're staying very pliable. Now, with that said, what ended up happening was I remember watching these monks. And I think I've told this story before. There's the Shaolin monk comes out, and he was like a master. And he said the monks that practice only the karate lose their power basically in their 60s or 70s. But the monks that practice the version of karate and the stretching or yoga type thing every day never lose their power. They stay young and flexible, and they stay very strong and resilient. So there's multiple data points that I've experienced myself from other people saying basically the same thing. And now this Tom Brady thing's like another one. Plus, I've been living this, and I've helped hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of men and women get off of heavy weights and go into resistance band, latex resistance bands. A lot of them are doing X3 like I have, way better gains. And now they have more time to spend more time doing stretching and yin yoga to balance out, the strength and everything, and keep them young and pliable and young. So anyway, and then the other thing you mentioned was an 80% plant-based diet or greater that he was doing. We talk about that all the time. If you look at the blue zones, the people that live the longest, there's certain pockets of areas around the world that have the most centurions, the people that live to 100. It was like the 4 commonalities. I'll just bring them up again because it's poignant. Number 1, lifelong friends. That's why it's so important to get out and mix it up with your friends and stay in. We're tribal. You have to be able to touch people and see their faces, and it's so important. That's how we're genetically made. If you get away from that stuff, you're hiding out, covering your face. You're going against nature and creation. So number 1, lifelong friends. Number 2, they respect their elders in those cultures. High respect for them. They don't just throw them in, into a nursing home. Number 3 was 80% plant-based diet or greater. So there it is. So, and the key here is I tell people, like, look, just fresher foods and eat a lot of plants and move up the ladder until you find a balance that works best for you. Now, you might end up being, at least got to get at least 50%, but maybe it's 80% or 100. It just depends. Whatever makes you feel better, do that. So everything he's talking about is definitely stuff that we've been teaching and preaching over here. I've been living it, my lifestyle now, for 12 years.
Yeah.
So, and it works. I mean, I'm 49 years old and I'm literally running around the mountains in 7 miles trail running. Like I could feel like a jackrabbit running around. And I just, that's the way it is now. And it's like, it's part of my life. And I look back when I was 42 pounds overweight and rectal bleeding and gastrointestinal issues and pooping rocks and blood. And it's like, I am very grateful. I do not want to go back into surgery again. So for those listening, don't wait. Okay. Don't wait till a wheel falls off like it happened for me. Let's get ahead of this. There's too much success out there leaving clues. My story, Tom Brady's story, the Shaolin monks, there's just people all over the blue zones. All we got to do is just kind of copy what everybody else is doing. We're probably going to get similar results.
Yeah. I've definitely been on a health journey. I would say the past few years, because I love food. I love unhealthy food. I really do. And I can't really control myself once I get into it. So I need to force that discipline. But anyway, I've taken away some main tenets from that book. I think the other thing he talks about is hydration, which I never really thought about before. And he says that, you need to drink in ounces, like half of your body weight. So if you weigh, let's just say 200 pounds, you need to drink 100 ounces a day of water. And that's a lot of water, but you need, that's what your body needs, he says. And he does it with electrolytes, which is interesting. And so I think, yeah. And then the other 2 things that I've learned about, is meditation, just your mental health and, setting aside time for that each day. And then the other thing I learned about, which I'm curious your take on these things too, is I did this thing with a nutritionist where they took like a blood chemistry profile, and then they looked at my blood and said, these are like the vitamins or things that are like missing from your blood, or that could be better, I guess.
Deficient.
So now I'm taking zinc and vitamin K and vitamin D and all this stuff, so I'm interested in your take on on those things I just mentioned.
Absolutely. Well, if we were eating like wild creatures and we were out there getting our 300 plus different varieties of food sources, which is not happening nowadays, we're getting about 52 and a lot of them are processed. I mean, think about the average person's consuming the same 14 meals over and over and over and over and over again. What are we going to get tonight? Oh, it's lasagna. Oh, it's pizza. It's stroganoff or whatever. So it's kind of the same thing. Hamburgers, hot dogs, salads, I guess, are in there. But as far as the blood profiling goes, we have to be very careful with that today, because depending on the test that you did, I can't remember exactly which one it was, but I think it was vitamin D they were looking for. And almost everybody is that takes that test. It's a medical test, literally. You're going to be vitamin D deficient. Right. And the reason why is not because 70% of us are. It's because they're looking for the synthetic version of vitamin D. That's how weird and corrupt it is. So, of course, you're going to be deficient. So then they send you down to sell you the synthetic version of vitamin D, which is a shadow of an offshoot of reality in the real world. So you want naturally occurring vitamin D, right? So we have a product called V-Stack, and it has vitamin A in it, vitamin D3, and that's from lichen, which is the, best source. And the vitamin C is actually from camu berry. And the zinc that we have is actually chelated. So it's not like just a rock mineral. It's more assimilable by the body. So it's stuff like that. The supplement industry is really corrupted. Or they just are very uneducated, because I've met plenty of supplement company owners that have good hearts, good intentions, but they just don't have a clue about formulation. And even if they do have a clue about formulation, when they send it off to the manufacturing labs, they're putting things in you might want to check these out, man. Look for these things in your supplements. If you see magnesium stearate or silicon dioxide or dicalcium phosphate, then you're basically putting cat poop in a brownie recipe. It doesn't matter how good your brownies are or these supplements, you're putting toxins in them. So if you go to our website at chemicalfreebody.com and look at almost any of our labels, you'll see in big red, right by other ingredients in red, no magnesium stearate, no silicon dioxide, no dicalcium phosphate, because we're trying to educate people to stop eating that stuff, right? It doesn't matter how good a formula is. It's like, why would you do that? Like, there's no way. Like, if, I was drinking a glass of water and it had a drop of gasoline in it versus the one that was just pure water, which one are you going to eat? You're going to drink the one with no gasoline in it. So why would we take supplements with a level 3 toxin on the EPA's toxin list? Just, it's okay, but it's a little bit. You see what I'm saying? It's just kind of weird. So, and here's the problem is that you might take these supplements and you might feel an effect, right? So that could come from many different ways. That could come from probably the most diabolical one is they'll what's called micronize 10% or so, 5% or 2% of the formula. And that synthetic now becomes hyper absorbable. So it literally rapes the cell and goes right into your cell because it's so tiny. It's like nanoparticles. And it goes right in and you feel it. So you think, wow, this is really working because it gave you this feeling. But it's like your cell got raped by a synthetic, right? So that's not cool at all. The other thing is that maybe it's got some good stuff in it. Maybe it's got some reishi and chaga and mushrooms and some good probiotics and maybe some good nutrients in there, maybe a little wheatgrass powder. But then it's got half synthetics, like vitamin C as an example. It'll say in parentheses behind it, ascorbic acid. If you see ascorbic acid in parentheses behind vitamin C, you're consuming a synthetic. And most people don't know because they read the other stuff. Oh, it's vitamin C's in there. Okay, that's good. Because it's almost like you have to be Sherlock Holmes, NASA scientist today to navigate labels. We just try to simplify this stuff for people, man, because it's like once you have a basic understanding on how to read a label, you're much better. And another rule of thumb is just don't buy supplements literally through grocery stores. I mean, there's very few that I would buy through a grocery store, especially the bigger the chains and the more commercialized, the bigger the corporations. It's just safer to stay away from them. You better go to like small little mom and pop places that have, but you still have to read the labels. But online is probably one of the better choices. And I've had people for years trying to get me to put my stuff in stores. I mean, I've let a couple places do it because I know them, but we usually just sell retail direct to the client. So anyway, I agree with the water. We teach the exact same thing. We teach 80% plant-based diet. We do band exercises. It's the same thing. We definitely talk about stretching fascia and ligaments and that kind of stuff. And, you don't have to look far for the results. So you can see what Tom's results are. You can see what my results are. I have a whole bunch of people behind me with, doing the same thing, and they're getting the similar results too.
Cool.
So I think you're on the right path, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for your insight.
Yeah, for sure. So I can tell you that one of the things that Tim said on, I bet it was probably maybe 8 or 10 episodes ago. And of course, I get to be on this podcast and I get to hear all the different things that he reinforces. We talk about, water and of course, what kind of water. And that's why I just showed you my glass jar, because drinking out of glass, not out of plastic. Go on and on. You can listen to any of the other podcasts just on that section. And that's the common theme. But one of the things that Tim said that for me was really telling, because look, we're busy. We do have our day-to-day. We have our family. We're working, the standard American diet, the SAD diet, as we call it, right? You get so wrapped up into that. And he was talking to one of the guests that was on here, financial advisor, and asking some of these things. And Tim said, you have to make your health a priority. And I never thought about it like that, right? Like it has to be a priority. And when I started thinking myself, like, my health is a priority, things started changing internally for me, right? Like the type of water I drink, that was one thing. Exercising. And one of the things that Tim turned me on to was that sauna. And we talked pre-show, maybe even early on in the show, Tim, we were talking about how I did the walk with my wife this morning. I got in that sauna, 12-minute sauna. It's a single person sauna that I now swear by. This isn't a hard sell at all. By the way, this is what taking your own health as a priority did. Investing into your own health as a priority for me was critical, because I have a family. I want to be around a long time. My wife is 6.5 years younger than me, right? So I'm already actuarially not going to outlive her anyway, right? So I started taking that as a priority. I just wanted to impart that on you, Ben, that it was impactful for me when Tim said, to that one guest, you got to make your health a priority. And I really started thinking about that. Like, yeah, I don't make it a priority. So for me, that's why now I'm like, man, I could eat that, or I could do that, and I could take the easy way out. But then I remember, make your health a priority, and that helps to give. And I fail from time to time, where we always fall short on a lot of things, right? But that for me,
there's no such thing as failure, just happy accidents.
Yeah, okay, happy accident, whatever. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, Ben. Because I'm a foodie myself. I love food. I can eat all kinds of stuff, but when you try to make your health a priority and you really start thinking about how impactful, important that is, you got a family that depends on you. They count on you, right? For a myriad of different things, just like you count on your wife for certain things. And when we start making our own health a priority, everything around us starts getting better.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to share. Ben, you mentioned that and I get it. Like you like junk, crappy foods, and you just go off the Richter and just like Garfield, right? Eat them all. The reason why that's happening, there's multiple factors there. It sounds like you had a pretty good upbringing from your childhood, so it doesn't sound like there was like a lot of like getting beat up or mental abuse or physical abuse, that kind of stuff. But if we just look at it on a physical level, most of the time there's a couple things going on. Number one, your immune system is dropped, and there's these little critters, these harmful organisms that kind of get out of control because you've had antibiotics as an example. You've wiped out part of your bacterial immune system, the microbiome in your gut. So things like candida, which is a yeast overgrowth, they can literally hijack the vagus nerve, which is connection between your gut and your brain, and like literally steer you to go eat like Haagen-Dazs or like a banana nut loaf at Starbucks. And parasites will want that too. So besides going through, we usually help people do those cleanses, but on the basis level, the simplest thing to start off with, we have two products that we get everybody on. One is called Gut Detox, and you initially double down on it for 15 days, and then you just take 3 a day for maintenance. And you drink that with our green formula twice a day, and that's going to replace the 85% of the nutrients been missing in the soil. So what ends up happening is your cells are now going to get what's missing in the food chain for you, and they're going to start sending signals to you that you're just not that hungry. So you'll notice on that program with just the Gut Detox and doing the greens twice a day, that your grocery, you're going to eat half as much. You just can't eat it anymore. And you're just like, how am I even living on this? I don't even eat that much. I used to think I had to do it. So, and it takes a little time, but within a week or two, you'll start actually craving the green formula. And it just makes it easier for you. Then you don't need that discipline and willpower because it's too hard of a road. You want to get to a point where it's just, that's the way it is. You don't have the cravings anymore. So those are usually come from long-term nutrient deficiencies on a cellular level. And by using the Gut Detox to clean up the digestive tract so you can get a maximum absorption of the greens as they go in through the intestinal lining, you'll notice a big difference. And your grocery bills probably drop $100 a month easy because you won't be able to eat as much. So that's something I would recommend.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Ben, do you have any other questions for my co-host? And you don't have to think of something, I promise. But, these are, really, really great takeaways already.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that he shared with you and everything. But if there was something pressing that you really wanted to know, please ask.
Yeah, I guess is the green formula kind of like the different vegetables and fruits in like a powder form, like the alkalizing kind of thing, and water?
Yes. Yeah, it's highly concentrated, like 4-to-1, 6-to-1, 10-to-1, 20-to-1 juice concentrates of like wheatgrass, spirulina. We even have dandelion leaf in there, which is a top 10 adaptogenic herb, and acai berry, just a whole bunch of stuff. There's actually vitamin D3 we added during the whole COVID thing, just because I knew people were deficient. But it's really hard because when you do those high concentrations on greens, usually it tastes like pond scum. It just doesn't taste that great.
Right.
And we used to sell it straight up, but we found a way to put a little raspberry and monk fruit in there to kind of blend it. So now it's just kind of like a light green tea. Most people have no problem with that. And if you are adverse to the taste, your cells still need it. And if you don't like the taste, then your body really, really needs it. That's a really big sign that you do need it. You can mix lemon juice with it or lime juice, fresh squeezed. You could put it in unsweetened cranberry juice. You can mix it with nut milks. Those are some things that you can do as options just to get it in you. And then, like I said, after a while, just let it work its magic. And most people are so deficient. It's just like, it's almost like a cactus that was just about ready to die. And then the rains finally came and it comes back. That's how you're going to feel. Because most people, their cells have just never, I mean, most people are operating on 15% fuel, if that. And when you can start having 100% dropped in there, it's a complete game changer. The coffees start going away, the 5-hour energy drinks, the Monster drinks, those things just slowly fade off into the distance. You don't even have to quit them. They'll just kind of give you up because they'll start making you not feel good when you take them.
Mm. Yeah, very interesting. I guess real quick, do you think people shouldn't drink coffee or caffeine? And also, I know there's just been like this revolution and like, it seems like at least in like, marijuana and the future of like mushrooms being used now. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that in the future,
Sure.
using that.
Well, as far as coffee goes, most of the coffee out there is full of mold. So people are just drinking this moldy substance. And we've been working hard for 12 years over here to help people get mold out of themselves. So if they were going to do coffee, there's a company called Life Boost, and they do shade grown coffee, which coffee is supposed to be grown in the shade. But what they do is they harvest it, or they whack down all the forests over there, and they just start growing coffee beans out in the sunshine. And for some reason, that's causes mold. That one guy, I can't remember his name, Dave Asprey, built a whole company around that, selling coffee for 4 or 5 times as much as regular coffee, just because he was educating people that, hey, you're drinking mold, right? So you probably don't want to do that. So if you're going to do coffee, I would say go to a shade grown coffee that's more alkalizing, and it's not processed with chemicals as well. And drink your greens first in the morning, and then drink your acidic or less acidic coffee, because the first thing after a night's sleep, you just don't want to throw acid into your body. You want to throw some water, should be number one, and then alkalizing greens, and then maybe have a little bit of coffee, and just kind of let it go that way. Now, as far as the marijuana stuff goes, you're talking about THC. I think that's actually a problem because through hybridization, it's so far concentrated. I mean, like, you could take a puff of a joint today and be blasted off into space because it's like 28% THC, right? Now, there are certain circumstances where, like Rick Simpson oils, that could be helpful, where it's in a tar oil form to help people with cancer, and there's benefits there. But CBDs from the hemp plant is very powerful stuff. But you have to find good quality. Just buying CBD because it says CBD on it's probably marketing. So again, you're probably less than 5% of the companies out there that I would actually put in my body. But there's huge benefits. We have these endocannabinoid receptors throughout our body, lots of them. So we're literally designed for it. And we've seen people heal up from major injuries in a third of the time, like broken hands and arms. We've seen people with torn Achilles, stuff like that. And people literally heal up in a third of the time if they're doing a really high quality CBD, along with, eating better. And we usually have them taken our other products too to clean them up and stuff. But, and then as far as mushrooms goes, man, major kick-assness with these mushrooms. Like, there's people that are microdosing. There's people that are, we have a product called multi-shroom that has like chaga, reishi, lion's mane, maitake, shiitake, and a complete fulvic humic acid. So it's like multi-mineral formula all in one. And I built that one for me to have a different build for a path of immunity. I wanted to be able to boost my immune system with mushrooms. But what we found out is besides doing that, it works great for people with anxiety and depression. And the most common thing that we get back from that is it gives me a wave of calmness. When people take it, they just feel calmer. They feel more connected. And it really helps people with anxiety and depression, which was a major issue. I mean, depression is like the number one selling pharmaceutical drug. So huge market out there for people. Shrooms are great. I still think people should eat them. It's a whole big discussion, but yeah, there's definitely, it's an emerging field, but it's going to be slow walk through, mainstream, clinical trials and all that stuff. So while everybody's waiting around for those clinical trials, if you would like to get ahead of the curve and be eating them and using them medicinally, like people have been using for thousands and thousands of years, you can just, meet somebody like myself or somebody who's doing it and just, again, copy and see how it works for you. And if you feel good, keep doing it. If you don't, then don't, but definitely mushrooms are a powerhouse out there, man. There's actually a movie called Fantastic Fungi.
Yeah, I
by
saw
Paul
that. Yeah.
Stamets. Have you seen that? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I need to get him on my show. He's a cool dude. He took it and ran with it, obviously, in a big way. So yeah, mushrooms are huge, and we've seen tremendous benefits for the people that are taking our multi-shroom product.
Cool. Well, thank you for your insight.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for coming on today and sharing. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, there's plenty more where this came from, and I will make sure that in a separate email or whatever, I'll send you some information on all of our guests. We do a discount for them if they ever shop on Chemical Free Body and everything. You just use the code Enrichers or Enricher, I think it plural or not, that you'll get a discount on that. But I'll send you some information on that on the side. But anyway, hey, Enrichers, speaking of you, thank you so much again for joining us for another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. And to be able to see all of our other guests and wonderful guests like Ben Offit, CFP of Offit Advisors, which we'll make sure that all of his how to get in contact with him will be in the show notes and everything. You can check out his website and all of the ways to be able to get in contact with Offit Advisors. Make sure to go to our website and at www.thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcasts. So for my fantastic co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James, always sharing and enlightening us on all things health. I am the CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group. Wishing you all a fantastic and wonderful rest of your day. Ben, thank you again so much for coming on the show. You were a great guest, and thank you for sharing with our enrichers your backstory and what you're doing over there at Offit Advisors.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, enrichers, until next time, make sure you live that life of abundancy, and we will see you on the Health and Wealth Podcast. Thank you, everybody. Hey, enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode, and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.